Good morning and welcome. Hello. It is Monday. It is 8 o'clock in the morning. It is the 9th day of May 2022. It is 50 degrees and sunny here at Site B. Hopefully you all have survived your Mother's Day weekend and are well and rested for another week of exciting tabletop role-playing game nonsense. What's going on in the world of tabletop role-playing games since last we spoke? Other than me making an utter fool of myself, but that's just general everyday stuff. I don't know, but let's take a look because it's Monday, so it's time for the tabletop role-playing game news and bundles. Bundles. But first, before we get into the excitement of reading the news, we must, of course, acknowledge the passing of comic book legend George Lopez, who ironically passed away Saturday on Free Comic Book Day. George Lopez worked for both Marvel and DC, best known for his stuff on Wonder Woman and other comic books, and just an amazing author and writer. Passed away on Saturday. So our sympathies and support to the friends and families of Mr. Lopez. But we have some good news. We have the announcement of the new Doctor Who. Jodie Whittaker will be stepping down as the Doctor very soon, and in 2023 we'll be introduced to a brand new Doctor under a brand new writer, creator, producer, Russell T. Davies, returning to the helm after the somewhat disastrous run of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. It is Nukute Gatawa, N-C-U-T-I-G-A-T-W-A. He is best known for his work on sex education as Eric. So yes, this will be the first person of color to play the Doctor. Not the first person of color who was a Time Lord, but definitely the first person of color to play the Doctor. If you're familiar with sex education, he's funny, he's charming, can play all the emotions. Let's hope he brings the necessary goofiness and also seriousness to the role of the Doctor. I know there was a lot of people hoping that we would see David Tennant show up again, but still might, because it is the 60th coming up. So we'll see. I mean, it's the anniversary. So maybe we'll see David and everybody else show up for anniversary. But Jodie Whittaker will be passing the torch to this gentleman. So if you're not familiar with his work and you have Netflix, check out Sex Education. It's a show I absolutely love. You can also, I'm sure, find him in other stuff. And once again, the new Doctor Who is a man whose name I can't even try and pronounce, but it's N-C-U-T-I-G-A-T-W-A. All right. Evil Genius Game announced the reboot of the D20 Modern Lab, and they have a new update, as we've talked about. They have somehow managed to pick up several licensed settings for this new uptake of D20 Modern, including Pacific Rim, Highlander, Kong Skull Island, The Crow, Universal Soldier, Escape from New York, and Total Recall. Each new setting will have a new class specific to that setting, in addition to the normal classes from Everyday Heroes D20 Modern 2022. Because of this announcement, and because D20 Modern is a D20 OSR SRD 5e engine game, or whatever you want to call it, it's using the current 5e stats and stuff. There's some confusion, whether intentional or accidental, that you could now have these things show up in your D&D game because they're using 5e. So you could have Total Recall in your Forgotten Realms Universal Soldier nonsense. And I had posted a video like, no, you can't. But then I was like, well, I mean, you could. You're not supposed to, but I mean, it's up to you. If you and your players agree that you want to use these in your D&D game, they are using the 5e engine, but they are not Dungeons and Dragons product. There is a difference between the 5e engine and 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. I tried to explain it in a vlog, and then I deleted that vlog because I was like, I'm not explaining this very well, the difference between a 5e product and a D&D product. So I will try and do another vlog about that, a lot shorter. But anyways, moving on. Passio announced a new audio adventure for Pathfinder. last year. It's called Shadowfall. It's set in the Shackles, which is their series of pirate dinosaur islands. It's a 6-episode audio adventure that will be available on various digital things like iOS and Android and whatever else, mobile devices. So basically a book on tape / audio adventure, but for D&Ds. I don't know if you have any control over the characters, like, fast forward to... Yeah. But yeah, basically I think it's a book on tape type of thing. Catalyst Games has announced several new Shadowrun products, including a long-awaited source book for Shadowrun, 6th World Edition. So he's got a bunch of books coming up with NPCs and adventures and magic and explaining the new 6th World Shadowrun post the events that happened with Seattle. I'm not up to date on what's going on with Shadowrun, but I do know that there was some major change in the political world building and the direction the Shadowrun store is going. So they were now labeling everything New Seattle, 6th edition, 6th World kind of nonsense, which is a very confusing name. But anyways, if you're a fan of Shadowrun, they've got a bunch of books coming out. Gamma, of which I am a member of, has announced their annual convention, Origins Game Fair. It will rescind its mask date and make mask wearing highly recommended, but not mandatory. So if you're going to Origins this year, it will be at least mostly live and running normally wherever they're going to have it. Masks are recommended, but if you don't want to wear one, they're not going to force you to. So good luck, Gamma, of which I'm a member of. Origins coming up, which means we'll be approaching to, and speaking of approaching to con season, here's an announcement for GenCon con season. So this will be apparently they're putting the pop-up GenCon events on hiatus after this year. So the pop-up events started around 2020 to allow people to take part of GenCon without actually going to GenCon. It was kind of like Free Comic Book Day meets pop-up restaurant. Several stores sponsored it, and then these individuals would come in and make it look like a pop-up with decorations and stuff, and have the GenCon sponsored product available and GenCon sponsored events. So if you couldn't go all the way to GenCon, or if you didn't want to travel, they had these pop-up things, and they were in 2020, 2021, and we had seen earlier that they were going to do them for 2022, but now it looks like maybe they're not going to do it, or this is going to be the last one, and then after the pop-up of 2022, they won't be doing it again for a while, which is too bad because it's a good idea. But, I mean, how much of that does this GenCon cover, and how much money does the game store have to fork out to get to use it? So I guess it's probably, if it's anything like Free Comic Book Day or Free RPG Day, I would assume the FLGS and the comic book stores that would have the pop-up, if they're forking out the money, it probably ended up being not cost-effective, because it's a great idea, but I don't know. I guess logistically, it didn't work. We also had a picture floating around. I guess some of the members of the Passio Union went to the White House and got to meet Joe Biden. And so we have a picture of several of the members of the Passio Union standing next to Joe Biden and Vice President Ms. Harris. One of them is wearing a T-shirt that says "Eat the Rich," standing right next to Joe Biden. I'm sure that, Mr. Biden was like, Anyway, so, yeah, we had some gaming people hanging out with the president and vice president. I don't know why that's interesting, but I suppose. Anyways, let's move on to bundles. Whew. The following bundles, freebies, and sales news is accurate as of today. So here we go. Freebies and pay what you want. We have the entire Devouring Desert campaign available on the DM's Guild. This is a 34-page PDF, free. It looks like a desert-based D&D game setting, official D&D approved, official DM's Guild approved. We have from John Beatfley something called, it's a source book on what happens when warlocks breaks their pacts with their patron. So he's written a source book to give you some ideas. Think of it as like a paladin falling from grace and losing their favoritism from their god. But he wants to explore well, what happens if a warlock decides, nah, not working for you anymore. So that is also available through him directly. That's John Breadfley, Breadify, or through DM's Guild. We have a collection of new playable races for the Wild Fang campaign setting. So we've got, anthropomorphic monkeys and wolves and cats and other stuff for the Wild Fang anthropomorphic setting. This is a pay what you want. It's from Elijah Mathis. And of course, as all these, you can get these directly from the creator or usually from DM's Guild or DriveThru. And speaking of wild and forests and animals, we have a wildlife campaign setting from Francisco Miguel. He has an 11-page PGF featuring new deadly flora, including the vampire flower. So if you want to support an independent publisher and get some ideas for how to spice up your wilderness campaign and throw some deadly plants at your players, here we go. From Liam McKay, we have Fighting Gigantic Monster. It is a collection of optional rules to make fighting the biggest threats in your campaign more interesting, and rules for targeting specific limbs, for climbing onto monsters and more. So if you're familiar with Monster Hunter, the video game, and in Monster Hunter you can do things like climb the monsters and harvest the monster parts. I guess this guy has tried to convert that idea to D&D with Fighting Gigantic Monsters. So as with all these, you can find this on this individual's own page or through the DriveThru type stuff. If you're looking to expand upon Ravenloft, we have a Secrets of the Mists. This is a 20-page source book from Kristen Kismundason, Kistmundsson, bringing you new fun for the Ravenloft setting. Again, as always, these can be found on each individual's website or through DriveThru and DM's Guild. We have on DM's Guild a bundle from Craig McKay for several new subclasses for D&D. 10 new subclasses across 13 official classes, 3 new spells, and 3 new NPCs. This is $3.70 over at the Dungeon Masters Guild. So if you're looking for a whole bunch of new stuff for options for your favorite class, check it out. It's on DM's Guild, which means, I don't know. We have some psionic nonsense for your 5e games. So if you're looking for some psionic nonsense, you can head on over to DM's Guild. And we have the Complete Psionics Bundle for 5e. This is $10. Oh, sorry, $7. On DriveThru, we have a seafood-based adventure. The company is called Seafood Games. And we have a collection of maps and adventures and other stuff for D&D, ready-to-use battle maps. Download the PTFs and print them out. Seafood Games, it's a great name for a game company. So, yeah, this is $12. Mork Borg fans, we've got a new thing for you from Mork Borgs. We've got a bundle called Fish, Parasite, and Toads. This is a couple different adventures and a couple different monsters from Mork Borg. You can find this over at the Exalted Funeral and DriveThru. It's $8. We have a fantasy and science fiction bundle, language bundle from Ken Wickman. So he has written several languages for different cultures like elves and fairies and orcs and dwarves and aliens and stuff like that. So if you don't want to pick up a book that tells you how to talk like a space carrot and the complete language of the space carrot, then I guess this guy's has done it. It's $20. We have a pair of bundles from Michael Brown for the 2D6 adventure setting using the Cephras engine. Cephas, of course, is a generic name for the system that currently powers Traveler. Each bundle features 10 new adventures for the Cephas, for basically Traveler. Here, and this week's charity bundles are... There is a bundle going out right now to support reproductive rights and the organizations that are, fighting to keep abortion legal. This is up at Itch.io, which means it's probably like $10 for like 500 things. So check it out. Even if you don't support the cause, it's a great way to get a lot of PDFs for a lot of good games relatively inexpensively. Of course, as with Itch.io ones, for every 3 awesome games, there's going to be one where you're like, why would I want this game? Dragon Rogue has a bundle called Fight for Rights. Fight for Rights is a game about politics, debate, and education using the Breathless SRD. This is $5 goes to support Planned Parenthood. I've never heard of the Breathless SRD or whatever this is. So, but if you want to spend $5 on a game about politics, it's up on DriveThru, and it goes to support Planned Parenthood. There are 2 Shadowrun bundles up at Bundle of Holding, both for $18. We have a Shadowrun World Essentials and a Shadowrun Core Essentials bundle. So if you're familiar with the previous bundles we've talked about, 2 bundles for the same campaign setting. One bundle gives you all the basic stuff, your player's handbook, your world guide, your whatever else, your monster manual, everything you would need just to start and run core Shadowrun. And then the other bundle gives you the stuff you need to expand. So it would have both official and unofficial stuff like adventures and additional monsters and things you wouldn't normally find in the core rulebook. But this is $18 for a bunch of Shadowrun. Both ones are $18, and it is a direct relief. There is something called the Hostile Bundle, which gives you everything you need for deep space horror in Traveler. Retro future setting of the game inspired by the movies like Outland and Alien, featuring claustrophobic space horror. So if you want a little mothership in your Traveler, here you go. This is direct relief. It's $10. We have a Humble Bumble spring sale. So we have a whole bunch of licensed TTP video games, including Cyberpunk 2077, Pathfinder Kingmaker, Celesta, Battletech, Shadowrun trilogy, and stuff like that. So if you're looking to get a bunch of video games for discounted prices through Humble Bumble and support some charities, check it out. They look like they're about 70% off each. So, or anywhere from 20 to 70% off. I mean, Celesta for $15, that was like a $50 game. Pathfinder Kingmaker for $9, that was like a $20 game. So it looks like it's, pretty decent discount to download a video game and support some charities. And that looks to be about it. We have no other news going on. Oh, yes, the Kickstarter for Blade Runner has started. Most anticipated role-playing game of 2022. The Kickstarter has already broken the $1 million benchmark and is looking to make more. So if you haven't supported it yet and want to get the Blade Runner role-playing game from Free League, check it out. This is the second thing I have ever Kickstarted. Even if I never use it, 1, it's from Free League and I love their stuff. And 2, it's Blade Runner, one of my all-time favorite movies. So, yeah. That's that. Of course, once again, acknowledging the passing of George Perez and his contribution to comic books, and announcing that they have a new doctor. I will post links to all this information down below. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you don't appreciate this content, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, take a moment out of your time to consider subscribing. It doesn't cost you anything. It only takes half a second, and it helps me out a lot, especially with the 700 subs by June 1st goal. Till next time, I've been the OGGM, your guide to all the tabletop role-playing game news, weather, sports, and general internet nonsense. I don't know what that weird dinging sound we heard was throughout the thing. It's not my phone. Maybe it's something outside or aliens. Anyways, again, these just because these are 5e does not necessarily mean you could use them in D&D. I mean, yes, technically you could, but I would assume that the rule set for Pacific Rim, even though it uses the 5e engine, will be slightly different than normal D&D, but you never know. Anyways, I have tried to explain the difference between 5e and D&D before and done a horrible job. I'm going to try and do it again. So until next time, stay out of my intellectual property, you damn kids and you damn kaiju. See ya.